Hi, this is Laura Staley, and I'm back with another video on Excel. Today I'm going to start a new series on Excel formulas and functions. This is really the reason for Excel's existence, the reason why people use it. And you can do a lot of things without doing formulas and functions in Excel, but if you use it long enough, you're going to want to know this. Now, this first video is on doing math in Excel, arithmetic, doing formulas, simple formulas in Excel. The next video, I will introduce functions, and that's really what most people use. But this video is to introduce some basic concepts that you need to know, and you're going to probably want to do some simple formulas sometimes anyway. So let's get started. So when I'm talking about doing arithmetic in Excel, what am I talking about? Talking about, think back to grade school, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. And those are the four basic functions. Now, I'm also going to touch on percents and exponentiation as part of this video. On the screen, I have a graphic that shows each of the symbols that you're going to use for these mathematical calculations. So for addition, you use the plus sign. For the subtraction, you use the dash, or it looks like a minus sign. For multiplication, you use the asterisk. For the division, you use the forward slash. For percents, go figure, you use a percent sign. And for exponentiation, you use the caret, C-A-R-A-T, not like what you eat. So these are the symbols. Now, most of you probably already know this, but let's take a look at where you find these symbols on your keyboard.
Okay, I have had the question in the past, where do I find these mathematical operators? And they are right in front of you, but if you don't use them, sometimes you just don't see them. Now, if you have a keyboard like this, then you are in pretty good shape, because over here on the number pad, you can see the plus sign for addition, the dash for subtraction, the asterisk for multiplication, and the slash for division. So you can just use them over there, and it's a whole lot easier. Now you can also find them on the number key. There is the line of keys with the numbers on them. There's the plus sign, the dash, the asterisk, except that the slash is down here with the question mark beside the shift key. Now, if you have a laptop like mine, of course, you don't have a number keypad, so you have to go up here to the numbers, and they're in the same place. The asterisk for multiplication, subtraction, addition, and division. Now, I'm also going to talk a little bit about exponentiation, and that uses a caret symbol, which is on the 6 key. So shift 6 will give you the caret. And then if you want to automatically convert a number to a percentage, of course, you use the percentage sign, which is on the 5. So those are all pretty standard across keyboards, at least in the US. And so that is where you find the mathematical operators that we will be talking about.
You may wonder why I covered that, and the reason is there are some things that you don't know until you need to know them. There was one time when I was doing training in a research facility, and this woman called me into her office one day, and I felt like she closed the door and closed the blinds and sort of whispered, "How do I subtract in Excel?" And she did advanced functions and formulas and did all kinds of things, but she apparently had never needed to subtract before, and she could not figure it out. And it was so simple. She felt so kind of foolish afterwards. But you know, everything is easy if you know how to do it. So for those of you who didn't know where those symbols were on your keyboard, now you do. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the basics of formulas in Excel. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is that a formula always starts with an equal sign. You have to type in equal, and that tells Excel, hey, Excel, there's a formula coming. You're going to have to do a calculation. If you don't put it in, it's just going to put the text in. Let me show you. So let's say I want to add 5 plus 7, subtract 2, hit enter. It's just text. I have to click in front of that formula, put an equal sign, and then hit enter again. And now I have the result of my formula. So that's number one. Formulas and functions always start with an equal sign. I don't know how many times when I first got started with Excel, I would type in a formula and I would look up and I would be looking at it and I would say, oh, and I'd have to go put in the equal sign, hit enter, and then it would be fine. So it's something you learn over time. Now, something else to realize is that the result of the formula is in the cell in which I've typed the formula. To see the actual formula, I have to look up here, and this is called the formula bar, and that's why. Whenever you are clicked on a cell with a function or a formula, in your Excel spreadsheet, the formula will appear up here. Now, to edit a formula, I have a couple different options. I could come up here and say, nah, I don't want to subtract 2. I want to subtract 3. And hit enter, and it will change the results of the formula here in my spreadsheet. Now, if I click on it, if I double click on the cell, it takes me into editing mode. And once again, I can come here and change my formula and hit enter. And again, it changes the formula. Okay, so does that make sense so far? Okay, so those are two things to keep in mind. Now, one of the things that you can do in Excel is just open it up and like I did before, hit an equal sign, and then just, if you have to add up a bunch of numbers, type in your numbers until you're done. And I've done that before where I've been in Excel and for some reason I just discovered that I needed to, to add up a bunch of numbers. And that's usually what it is. You can subtract, multiply, divide, whatever you need to do. It's in this case, it's usually adding. And I've just, typed in the numbers, hit return, and it's like I've used it as a calculator basically. But you really don't want to do that because um, most of the time you are going to want to go back and edit it. And it is a pain to click here and look up at these numbers and make changes and edit it manually. So what you actually want to do is put the numbers in your spreadsheet and then refer to the cells that hold those numbers. So let me show you. Let me delete this. And let me come up here. And I have this little chart here, and I'm going to show you how to do this. So I'm going to click here. Now, when I do this, what I want to do is to type in an equal sign and then type in the cell reference for the first argument and then hit whatever mathematical operator I want and then the next cell reference. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to hit equal. Now I want to add this 5 first. I'm going to add 5 and 2. So I want to say I want to add 5 and 2, but I want to use the cell references. This is I2. The cell reference starts with the letter of the column followed by the number of the row. So I'm in column I and I am in row 2. So I2. I can either down here type in I2, and I know I have the right cell because it automatically sort of highlights that cell for me, and I can see that I have the right cell. Or even easier, once I type in the equal sign, my uh, formula is active, and if I click on a cell, it's going to automatically pick up the cell reference. So I'm going to click here, and it will fill in I2 for me. Now notice it's capital I and 2. I do not have to capitalize the letter of the column if I type it in manually. So I typed in I, but it was a lowercase I. Excel doesn't care. So I have I2, and then I'm going to want to add. So I want the plus sign. And then I want the next one, and I3. And it highlights it in a different color than the original cell. So I can tell that the first argument I2 is blue here, and the text here is blue, and the I3 is red, and so is the text. So I can line things up with my eyes to match things up to make sure I have things right. Now, this is a very simple example, so you don't really have to do that, but sometimes you have big ranges and lots of different arguments, and it just is an easy way to look around to make sure you have everything right. Now, once I'm done, all I'm going to do is hit enter on my keyboard, or return if you're on a Mac, and voila, it gives me the result. Now, I can do the exact same thing for the rest of these columns, just changing the mathematical operator, the plus sign, the minus, the asterisk, and so forth. So I can say equal, and if I want to subtract this, I'm going to click on the first cell, hit the dash, hit the second cell, hit enter. And that's subtraction. If I want to multiply, I hit equal, and I'm going to click on the first cell, or I could type in K2 and then do the asterisk, and then click on the second cell and hit enter. And then finally divide, I'm going to hit equal, and the first cell, hit that divide symbol, hit the second cell, and there's my result. So it doesn't take very long, especially with something this simple. And personally, I prefer to click on the cell rather than trying to line my eyes up so that I get the right row number and column heading. So, but you can type them in or you can click it. Either way, it doesn't matter. As long as you type in the equal sign, your formula is active and it will pick it up. Now, if I type in an equal sign, and I mean to click up here, but I accidentally click over here, yeah, I have the wrong thing. I can either hit backspace to get rid of the cell reference, or I can hit escape to exit the formula entirely. So those are two tricks if you just click on the wrong place and you're just clicking all over the place and you need to get out of it. Okay, now let me say that I am going to have a corresponding blog post for this video, which I will link below. So as we're going through this, if you're thinking, oh, I don't remember some of these details, the details will be in that blog post. So look down below for that link. Okay, so does that make sense so far? Okay, good. Okay, you normally do not have as simple of formulas as what I just covered. Generally you're not going to subtract 5 from 2 in an Excel spreadsheet. You may, but normally formulas are going to be a whole lot more complicated than what we've already covered. The thing to understand in that case is that there is a precedence to the calculation order. And let me explain what I mean. There were different mathematical operators. There was addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, percent, exponentiation, and you can also put things in parentheses. And the reason why you put things in parentheses, I'll explain in a moment. Now, what it does is this is the order of calculation within a formula. So it's going to read the formula left to right, and if it finds any parentheses, it's going to do those first. And then if it finds any percents, it's going to do those next. And then it's going to do any exponents or exponentiation. And then it's going to do any multiplication or division. So if there's multiple multiplications and or divisions in a formula, it's going to start on the left and then do them sequentially. And then last but not least, it's going to do additions and subtractions on the last pass. And again, if there's multiple additions and subtractions in one formula, it'll start on the left and go to the right. So the reason why you use parentheses is if you want to interrupt the normal order of operations and force it to do something first so that to make the formula come out right. Now, there were times that when I was helping people at their desks, using Excel, that they would have a formula and they would have, usually it was they wanted to divide by the number, by a specific number, and then use that as part of the rest of the calculation. But they had to force that calculation to happen first, that division to happen first, by putting parentheses around it. And then when it divided again, it all worked out fine. So usually what I told people is if your formula just isn't coming out right, look to see if you need to force part of it over to the right to happen first, or if you need an addition to happen before a multiplication, something like that. So let's look at a couple of examples so maybe you can see what I'm talking about. Now, down here, I haven't put the equals in yet so that you can see them. The first formula is 4 plus 2 times 3. So what is that going to do? Now, since multiplication comes before addition, it's going to multiply 2 times 3, which is 6, and then add 4 for a total of 10. Okay, does that make sense? So if I click here, put in the equal sign, there it is. That's what it calculates out to be. Now here, there it's 20 divided by 5 plus 2 times 3. So since division and multiplication happen first before addition, it's going to divide 20 by 5, which is 4. It's going to multiply 2 times 3, which is 6. And 6 plus 4, again, is 10. Okay, so this last one, this is going to be the fun one. It is 2 times 4 in parentheses plus 3 to a power of 2 minus 8 divided by 4. So, did you get that? So let's break it down. Let me scroll down a little bit. Okay, so parentheses come in first. So that is going to be 8 plus 3 to the power of 2 minus 8 divided by 4. So that's the next iteration. Then it's going to do exponentiation next. So it's going to do 3 to the power of 2, which is 9. So it's going to be 8 plus 9 minus 8 divided by 4. Okay, does that make sense so far? Now, does division before addition or subtraction, right? So it's going to be 8 plus 9 minus 2. Okay, so now 8 plus 9 is 17, minus 2 is 15. And there you go. So I could have typed in the equal sign up here, and gotten the same result. I just wanted to show you what Excel was going to do to get to this result of 15 that we got in both places. Okay, so that is something to keep in mind. Now, you don't start with a formula that complex. And in the business world, I haven't run across many people using exponentiation. It generally is addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Although you never know. If you do some more advanced analysis, you might get into that. But most of the time, people do the more basic functionality. Okay, I hope that gives you a good introduction to doing basic math and formulas in Excel. My next video is going to be an introduction to Excel functions. And this is really what more people use when doing calculations in Excel because it automates the process. There's a sum function that will automatically add up all kinds of things for you. And so keep an eye out for that. But we're going to use some of the principles that we learned in this video, even in functions, as we get into more advanced options. So I hope that makes sense. I hope you can see yourself applying this to your own data. Keep an eye out for my next video.